everyone, to another broadcast of The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. All past broadcasts are podcasts. Pick them up at ArtistFirst.com. We welcome your questions and comments. Please use DJ at ArtistFirst.com. Here they are, Michael and Margaret Lyons.
Thank you very much, Z-Man, and I am Michael Lyons.
And I'm Margaret.
And we are going to cultivate an attitude of peace.
True.
The next 50 minutes will be complete silence. You'll love it. It's going to be great.
I think that's stillness. No, that would be stillness.
Silence is not the same. Anyway, grounding. We are going to talk tonight about peace, and I think it's appropriate because that's one thing that our world needs right now, because it's sorely lacking. Well, I would say, let me rephrase that. Our people, our human, our human presence, all of us in this existence on this planet, is there's a lot of lack of peace right now. There's still many who are in peace, but I think there are many who are desiring it, and many who feel frustrated that they can't attain it, and many who are almost in despair of their lives ever
coming to
peace. And I think we should lead, in fact, in a moment or two with Tolle's quote, because it's so beautiful and profound. Because the preface I will say is that peace is available to you, but there's a one specific thing you have to do in order to make your way in that direction. But if you wouldn't mind, let's go with our Tolle quote, and then we will continue.
All righty. Whatever you accept completely will take you to peace, including the acceptance that you cannot accept, that you are in resistance.
Eckhart Tolle. And, you listen to that, or rather you read it, and you kind of turn it over in your mind, and you go, that's a puzzler. But if you unwrap it just a little bit, it's not so bad. One of the things that people will complain about, let's say if they're trying to meditate, is like, I can't, I just can't achieve the meditation. Something is always distracting me. Another thought comes up. A noise happens outside. Something starts to itch. My foot goes numb, and I can't meditate. And so, largely they'll spend a period of time trying to meditate, and in essence getting further and further away from a true centered being state. Almost in the act of trying to meditate, they bring themselves, or rather, the distractions become more obvious. And without digressing too far, that's interesting in the way that some people can meditate while doing a lot of things. In essence, you reach a centered peace, even in what we used to call a moving meditation, or in walking, or in something that distracts the body. But if you try to still the body fights back. It resists. It resists peace. It wants to be paid attention to. And the nut of what Tolle is talking about here is acceptance. And I think people get hung up on that too, Margaret, because they say, well, I can't just accept everything. I'll be like a doormat. Everyone will just walk all over me all the time. And we can talk a little bit about that. But the key thing that he gets to right at the end is you have to accept that you're imperfect, that you aren't accepting. You have to accept the fact that you are distracted. You go into meditation, you're distracted, and you just have to say at that moment, yeah, there's a thought there. And there it is. And don't what the Buddha says, don't engage in the thought. Just observe the thought. Accept that the thought is there too. It's also part of your consciousness. As the ego and the body and the mind and the emotions try to fill the stillness, they try to do it by kind of being like small children, kind of make noise or try to knock something over or get your attention, because in stillness they feel a little threatened, a little lonely, a little scared. That there's such vastness that's opening up around them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
And if you just in meditation, sit down in meditation, not say, I'm going to go into nirvana now. Watch, No, sit down in a meditative state or in any state and accept that distractions are going to happen. Something is going to go on outside. One of the kids is going to walk in. An itch will happen. Your foot will fall asleep. All those things. And as they happen, you incorporate them into the meditation, not by paying attention to them, not by letting them distract you, because you can't be distracted. Because in meditation, what you're saying is, I am being, and everything around me, all things, the whole world, the universe, can happen. Just happen.
Well, you are truly the observer at that point. You observe all of these facets that are trying to grab your attention as opposed to allowing themselves to be observed. And that's what I always found interesting, was when these things rise up and they're trying to grab your attention or engage, allowing the space is allowing that connection. Maybe that's the best way to put it. Because what they're really looking for is a place in which they can abide. Instead, and what they believe they have to do is grab the attention and hold it. And that distinction of being able to create a space so that whatever it is that has arisen can be there is enough. It doesn't need the engagement. But that's like the interim step that has to be made or learned. It's like, I can allow you to be here, and consciousness dictates the terms.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when you have your pet and your pet wants to do something to grab your attention.
Eat, for example.
And you basically allow, okay, you're allowed to be there, but you may not disturb me right at this moment. And they do eventually learn, okay, I will wait, because I know that this will come after my human is done doing whatever they're doing. It's a relationship. And you must create this kind of connection with these different aspects of your world. This is what relationship is. You can actually set
boundaries.
Well, you can set the boundaries, but you can set the rhythm,
yes,
the melody, the
beat,
the way the interaction should be according to your consciousness. And your consciousness understands that it is observing, and that connection is very important.
Mm.
It's so important. You will gain more peace when your relationship with the things or the people around you understand that you're connected to them, even if you're not speaking to them directly. It's a marvelous thing.
Yeah, I love the term that you used, which is relationship. You have, okay, the ego and the thoughts and the emotions and all things that come in as distractions. attempt to force themselves upon you as identity. You are this, you are that. Relationship is a recognition that you are not that, but you also have a connection. You have control. In a good relationship, you have control. You have control of how much of you give to the relationship, and how much of the other you wish to relate to. In a toxic relationship, in a codependent relationship, those boundaries are obliterated, or they're very weakened. In codependent relationships and toxic relationships, the other wants to be you. It wants you to be them. You see the difference here is that no longer do you have me and you in our relationship. It's like, I am you, you are me, and everything I do you have to do, and everything you do I have to do, and you feel the toxicity and the clutching fingers. Okay, that's what the ego wants to do with you.
Well, you realize at that point that there is no boundary.
Right.
And that's the mistake that a lot of people make, is that they believe in a love relationship especially, that you have to be each other.
Yes.
And it's like, no, you're supposed to be completely you, and the other is completely themselves. And that interaction is what brings the relationship into a fullness. That's when you begin to create something greater than yourself.
Exactly.
If you start trying to dictate, well, you're this and I'm that, and this is the way we're going to do everything. It's a very mental plane of this is how our relationship works.
Mm-hmm. Our roles and all this other nonsense.
You cut away a lot of the life and the life force that comes naturally when two beings come together and interact naturally in this relationship. There is a growth process. It's listening and then allowing. Because in a relationship where you're dictating, you basically are saying, no, you can't feel that way about what I've just done here. You're supposed to love everything that I'm doing. Why aren't you loving everything that I'm doing?
Right. I mean, and this is a great analog when you talk about, what we're talking about tonight, which is peace, and the peace that you're looking for can be an aspect of relationship, because relationships can cause turmoil, especially toxic relationships. But it's a relationship of your consciousness to the things. If you go back one step and say, all these things are annoying me, all these things are taking my peace away, all these things are preventing me from being happy. In relationships, you hear this too. What you're doing is making me not happy. Do something that makes me happy. That's toxicity. The ego does that to people all the time. It basically says it's the voice in your head saying, you're not making me happy. You got to do this. You got to do that. You got to do the other thing. The toxic relationship of ego to consciousness is ego says, I am you, and everything I am is what you are. And the pain body and the thoughts and the emotions that go with it, and then the external distractions, the things that happen to you, all kind of want to intrude on what you think is your peace. So it's like you're thinking, I've got this little box, and this little box is my peace, and everybody's trying to break in and take it away. And okay, you don't have any boundaries. You don't have a relationship with these other aspects of you, and also with the universe in general. The relationship, the boundaries are, you are a being, a consciousness. Within your consciousness, all things happen, yet you are still not those things. You're not your emotions. You're not your thoughts. You're not your ego state, and you're not what happens to you.
What are you really?
What are you really? But that's what you have to. That's the acceptance part. When we said before, people say, "Well, if I accept everything, and people just run over me." No, no, no. You accept all things. You accept that you are in a universe in which anything can happen. Anything can happen, and don't put a judgment on it, good or bad. It's just anything can happen. And in the universe in which anything can happen, there's a moment of now when things actually happen. Not the past, not the future. Now. You're in the moment of now always, where things happen. That's the thing you accept. I'm in the moment of now where things happen. You also have to accept that there will be distractions. There will be things which try to take away your peace. Things which will appear as attacks. Other beings who are less conscious, of course, than you, who will try to disturb your peace or to, really be, in some ways, a toxic part of your environment. They're unconsciously trying to attack you in one way or another, and you have to accept that those people are there. And this is where they are, in observation. You also have to accept that within you, there are thoughts which say, oh, if only this, or what if that, or if we did this next year, if we only did that last year. These things are there. And when you first start, they're a cacophony. In fact, they've been with you all your life, perhaps, and you have been beset by them. When you first start to give yourself a being space, they're still there. You develop a relationship to them by saying, I hear you, I see you, my fear, I see you, my anger, I see this toxic ego piece of me. And I say, I accept that.
Well, the other aspect to this is the acknowledgement that this is a free will world. And you must not trample on someone else's choices. To allow another to have free will in the moment. That's a very tricky thing, because usually the ego, the person, wants to control the moment and says, I know exactly the way you should go. And you need to do this or do that. It's like, no. This is a place of free will. And if they choose not to interact with you, then you need to make space for that. Doesn't mean that you give up, but it means that you make space for it, come back at another point and see if circumstances have changed, because circumstances always change.
If I might stop you there, because this is a very, 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 very significant point. People get hung up on circumstances never changing. And the moment of now, accepting the moment of now doesn't mean that it's going to be this way forever. They say, well, if I accept it, it's just going to stay that way forever. What you just said is the exact right relationship with the moment of now. The relationship with the moment of now is now, and the next now will be different. So if I accept that right now, for argument's sake, that I have a toxic relationship with this relative or whatever, and I feel very wounded and hurt, accept it. Be in it. If there's anything you can do, do it. If you need to leave the situation, leave it. But the next moment of now, if you accept all that, is ripe with all sorts of possibility. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
And anything could be a complete reversal of where you are now. And you can't say to yourself, well, now it's good, and before it was bad. Now it is. The thing we wrote here, not posted, but it will be posted in a little bit, is that the is-ness of now, the current moment of now, is what it is. That's the acceptance part. Not that you like it or dislike it. That's what people think when they think about acceptance. They say, well, if you accept it, it means I like it. No. It means you accept that this is right now. This is. I am who am. This is who is. Is what is, rather. Sorry. It's not a who. And that's the relationship you have to have with the moment of now. But it's going to change. You have to accept that too.
Well, accept the fact that because free will exists, there is a multitude of possibilities that you can explore. That's the amazing part of this world. There are many ways to go, but what do you choose? What do you allow and what do you bring in? A lot of people say, "Oh no, I want to narrow it down to only the good possibilities."
Only the good possibilities, exactly.
And
I only want the good ones.
And you look at that and you go, okay, how do you know if it's good or bad? Truly.
Exactly.
Because we've all been in situations where it looks good, then you go there and it's like, it's awful. Or you're in a situation where it just looks really bad, but it turns out very well. So how do you actually know what's good and what's not? If you can accept the fact that as a human being, you do want what's good. It's as simple as that. There's nothing wrong with wanting the goodness of life.
No.
But to say that you are in control and you're going to narrow it all down, narrow it all down so I can control it.
I can make it good.
And it's like, do you even know what good means? What is your definition of good? And when you ask people, there's quite a look on their face, frankly. When it's like, what?
What do you mean?
But understanding that relationship with yourself and the world around you, whether it be people, whether it be situations, whether it be things,
loss or gain.
Yes, both are there. Both are always there.
Yeah.
And one of the hardest things to do, I would say, is the exercise in not having an opinion. That would be an exercise that would be given out to allow you to realize how much your ego is actually in control. Can you do something without an opinion? That's a hard one.
And it's very hard. And if you say that to somebody, I mean, what do you mean without an opinion? Every opinion that you give is a judgment based on your internal voice saying this is good or this is bad, and usually it's good for me or bad for me.
Right.
And the thing is, the moment of now is neither good nor bad. It just is. Now, as Margaret just said, you can want the good all the time. If you're a good person, you of course want the good all the time. And you can act as cleanly and as uprightly and righteously as you possibly can with your full judgment in the moment of now, using your heart, letting your heart guide you. But knowing, accepting that no matter how much you want the good or how rightly or justly you act, the next moment of now is the moment of now. And don't judge it. You get it. You receive and accept. You receive the moment of now. You welcome it into you, into your consciousness. You don't have a choice, but let me back up. You welcome it in the sense that you accept that it is in full awareness. The moment of now comes regardless, despite every ego machination, despite the fact that you live in the far past or in the far future. The moment of now happens all the time, regardless, because that's where everything happens. The acceptance of the moment of now, in essence, accepting the moment of now, is the only control you really do have in the moment of now, to act in full awareness. If that's your superpower, We've talked about this before. This is the actual superpower that everybody has, is that you can accept the moment of now and act in full awareness without railing about why it didn't happen this way, or wondering about what's going to happen in 10 minutes from now, or saying, this is not a good moment of now. I want the next moment of now. I want the moment of now that's years from now because this one's bad. No. You live in this moment of now, and you will find that this moment of now is what you have, is in acceptance. The kernel of that acceptance contains the thing that we're talking about, peace, and also, in many ways, joy.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to be truly happy in any situation, under any circumstances, because none of that matters, truly, you accept that this is the is-ness of now. This is where you are. You, all of you, the full being, with your heart, your desire for good, your actions, which are incredibly upright, true, and pure, yet nothing is guaranteed. Nothing you do will control the next moment of now. Yet you are free completely from consequence, or from recriminations, rather, from regret. You're free completely from continually living in the future, wondering what if, how will this, how will that, all the anxiety, and you'll be in peace. It's a wondrous buoyancy.
Yes. To be able to abide in the peace. Because you have chosen, you actually must choose your moment.
Mm-hmm.
You choose to be in the moment. And you start there. And as you engage in that moment, you begin to realize that the next moment, you have to start there.
Mm-hmm.
Again. Clean. And again. Clean. This is where you have no attachments.
Exactly.
Having the attachments basically means that there's no what ifs. You have let go of what ifs, and you are living in that moment. In other words, every decision you make, you've already realized that there's a myriad of outcomes. But what is the one road that you would regret if you didn't choose it? That's the question. And in choosing it, you do not have that regret. It's a marvelous thing.
And I think
marvelous thing.
And what you said is exactly right, but I think people hear the regret part. You choose from the heart, and you never experience any regret. You own your choice in the sense that you have accepted the moment of now. You accept also that you have one choice. You can only choose in that particular instant. You can only choose one thing, because that's the thing that you choose, and everyone else is choosing all the time, and we're all observing the whole entire universe at the same exact time. Isn't it amazing? We're all carrying the universe around with us, every one of us, even if there's only 10 billion of us. It's 10 billion universes, or however many infinite number of consciousnesses are in the universe. But regardless, if there's just one, that one carries around the whole universe within itself, and has the moment of now, an amazing thing, and free will to choose what to do in the moment of now, because you get to choose, you get to observe. You aren't just a block of dull, inanimate matter, which is fine, but dull, inanimate matter doesn't choose. You choose, you, the consciousness, and you choose to have a relationship with the moment of now. And let's take this moment of now and have a relationship with the studio, and go back and listen to a couple of commercials. Then we'll come back on the other side and we'll talk more about peace and how to get there.
Batman Gets Out of Bed is the latest book from Michael Lyons, the award-winning author of There Is a Reaper. Featuring 13 original stories, this wide-ranging collection has everything. Forbidden love, gods versus demigods, weird invading aliens, sexy seductive artificial intelligence, and unusual passion between the living and the dead. All set amidst fantastic worlds of pain and loss and boundless joy. From the sublime to the macabre to the bittersweet, The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed will leave you breathless with laughter, brimming with tears, trembling with suspense. Available now on Amazon.com, Google Play, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere.
Moonstones and Murder. Real murderers need a heart of stone. Meet Maggie and Mike Heartstone, parents of twin boys, entrepreneurs, and now empty nesters. Mike is retired, not by choice, from his position as chief of police in the picturesque resort town of Hamilton. And now his wife Maggie and her shop, the Cozy Crystal, are their only source of income. When a mysterious killing interrupts Hamilton's famous Springfield Park rock show, the townsfolk, the Cozy Crystal, and their lives are rocked to the core. Can Mike and Maggie figure out who is behind the murderous deeds before the town comes crashing down around them? A touch of romance, a little mayhem, and a whole lot of suspense, along with plenty of comedy and thrills galore. Get your crystal magnifying glass out. It's time for some Moonstones and Murder. Available on Amazon, Apple, Kobo, and other fine e-tailers in ebook and paperback. Out soon on Audible. Get your copy today.
Rick Riordan fans, love mythology with plenty of action and humor? Destroyer's Blood is for you. The new fantasy novel by award-winning author Michael Lyons is book 1 of the adventures of Dev Kalian, the Blood series. Follow Dev and his magic sword Betrayer as they are suddenly attacked and forced to return to Olympus to fight in a war they want no part in. The world of men and gods is about to be destroyed by Zeus's ancient foe, and only Dev and Trey can stop him. The conflict never stops, and the amazing twist will have you on the edge of your seat. Act now while the ebook is on sale for only 99 cents. Destroyer's Blood is available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere. And while you're there, get the free prequel, It's in the Blood, available for a limited time.
The wait is over. First Blood, Book 2 of the Blood series is out. Your favorite bad boy thief Dev is back, and the beautiful and deadly Trey is right there with him. She is sharp, sexy, and full of surprises. Their adventures continue as a new power arises to threaten the world. The heart of creation is under attack, and time is definitely not on their side as they battle against their enemies' undead hordes. Can they unlock the hidden power that can defeat him, or will his forces draw first blood? Get all 3 installments in the series. Book 0, It's in the Blood. Book 1, Destroyer's Blood, and the new release, Book 2, First Blood, today. Available in ebook and paperback format on Amazon, Kobo, Apple, and most other fine e-tailers.
There Is a Reaper is the story of 5-year-old Christopher Aaron and his life-changing struggle with leukemia. Winner of both the Indie Bragg Medallion as well as the reader's favorite silver medal for memoir, There Is a Reaper has more than 100 Amazon book reviews and a 5-star rating. It has been described as life-changing, spiritual, a must-read. Just released on Audible and iTunes, this memoir is also available in paperback and on Amazon Kindle for only 99 cents. Get your copy of this life-changing memoir today.
Hi, this is William B. Davis, the actor who plays the Smoking Man, or did play the Smoking Man on the X-Files. I'm also a writer, director, producer, and I am delighted to tell you that you are listening to the ArtistFirst radio network.
thank you, listeners, for being way cool people and listening to our broadcast this evening. Back to your hosts, Michael and Margaret Lons.
Thank you very much, the way peaceful people are listening tonight. They're way cool and way peaceful. And tonight we are talking about peace. And last half hour we were talking about a lot of things, sort of the things that can distract you. But this half hour I just want to talk about a little bit of the mechanisms. When we were talking about acceptance, and there are other related words, are pathways to peace. Forgiveness. Forgiveness is a form of acceptance. Why? One will go through life, and there will be others that come into your life unconsciously, and they offend, or unconsciously they harm, or in some cases very grievous harm is done. Someone injures you terribly, or takes away someone with whom you have a great loving relationship. They injure you. And oftentimes there's a break of a relationship, or there's a within your consciousness, a fragment of you holds anger, resentment, the sentiment, I'll never forgive them for what they did to me. Okay. This, often people will cite these things and say, I can never be peaceful. I can never be at peace because of this offense. But what are you doing? You're carrying around this particular situation, which is obviously in the past, which the offense is no longer going on. The person who offended may be long gone, may be, there may be no other way in fact that they exist except in your consciousness as a fragment of what Tolle calls the pain body. The path to peace here is forgiveness, because who are you hurting in this moment by carrying this around? You're only hurting you. You're taking away your own peace. It feels like they're doing it, but that's just an ego reflection or an ego transposition. Ego says, I'd be perfectly well if this one had never harmed me 25 years ago. Well, no. You could be perfectly well this exact instant by accepting that 25 years ago a bad thing happened to me. But that was then, and I am now. My being is now. My being is vast. And in the vastness, you have to say, I accept those things happen, because there's nothing I can do about them, and never could. And in acceptance, peace comes. In forgiveness, you're getting yourself back. You're releasing the pain that you are holding and inflicting, in essence, even though you may give it the name of that other. You're inflicting it upon yourself. You're allowing your peace, your wholeness, your consciousness to be fragmented, distracted, obscured. Your awareness of the moment of now, the limitless possibilities of this instant, to be obscured by an untouchable event which is in the immutable past. It's difficult, because as human beings we have this wonderful memory, and we can fragment ourselves and give energy, present energy, to this pain. But the path, the hard path at the beginning, but it becomes easier and easier, is to forgive, is to accept that in the moment of now, or in the moment of 25 years ago now, something bad happened or happens. You yourself can't judge it. You have to accept it. It doesn't mean that it's not right or wrong, or that it's not bad to you, or that it's not harming you. It's all of those things potentially, but accepting it gives you the peace, and then the ability to say, if there's nothing I can do, I have to endure. If there's something I can do, I'll do it. But you don't take the pain internally and give it life, give it your own life.
Well, you can observe it, okay? And it's observing with a lot of space around it. It's not observing where you're reliving it.
Exactly.
You're stepping into that moment when you were younger, 25 years ago, let's say, and you were younger, and you're not reliving that. You are observing the younger aspect of you in that past moment and realizing that in this moment, this is who you are. You start from here, not from back there, but from here. And when he says, I accept it, what you're actually accepting is the fact that I am, in this moment, observing a shadow of the past. And you realize in that moment, you choose where you're going to live.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you living? Are you living in that past moment? Or are you living in this moment of now, observing and understanding that things have changed tremendously along this timeline? What do you choose now? What is in front of you now? Where do you abide now? And it again comes back to, where are you starting now? Because every moment of now is a start. Allowing what has been to be in the has been. Where do you choose to start? Place your feet. What is your decision in this moment? Where do you place your consciousness? Whatever you put in your heart that needs to be played out. Forgiveness is key, because forgiveness allows what you've gone through to have been. And you can let it go once it's in have been. Because you choose now.
And you choose peace. But it's so important that what you just said is incredibly important. You can have, it's not forgive and forget, or it's not even forgive and it never happened. It's remember every moment of your existence, but don't live there. You can have perfect eidetic memory, but just like a thought when you're in meditation, you don't engage, you don't go back there with your perfect memory and relive and renew and use your current moment of now on a dead, let the dead past bury, let the dead bury, was it the dead past bury the dead? I forget how it goes, but
let the dead past bury its dead.
In essence, don't put any of your present moment of now. You can take your awareness and in full awareness, remember the past, but be aware that it is no more, as Margaret just said, than a shadow. And you can use everything that you've experienced and use it to inform your current present. You've learned things, you know things. You've experienced your life. You have your whole experience bank. You have your whole to this moment, this particular lifetime, to call upon, to inform. Perfect. Do it anytime you wish. Pull a memory from 27 years ago and say, this situation is like that one. Perhaps I'll do that. But in this moment, you have the full ability to pull from your experience, but be in the moment of now. And so living there is regret. Living there is taking you from the moment of now. It's engaging with the past.
Living there is living in a shadow.
Yes.
And is that what you want? Do you wish to live in a shadow as opposed, because your life force becomes engaged and you will basically siphon off your life force into a shadow realm. instead of choosing this moment and living as fiercely and as brightly as you could possibly do, and not create any shadows. You can live in light, but you must choose it.
And similarly, people have similar problems with the future. People will use the moment of now to engage in fear, in essence, in anxiety. What's going to happen tomorrow? In the moment of now, something comes to you. There's a letter that comes in that says, you owe this and that, or we're going to do this, or this is going to blah, blah, blah. And in the moment of now, you have to accept that. But then the ego wants to talk about, well, what's going to happen tomorrow? And then the next day. And this could happen, and that could happen. And I could end up here, and I could end up there. And all that spinning removes energy from the moment of now. Worry, anxiety, fear, terror. All these things are dealing with the unknown, unobserved, infinite possibility of not now, of what is yet to be, but instead of waiting and realizing that no matter what you fear, in this moment of now, it is not happening. The past is not happening, it has happened. The future has not yet happened or been observed. Thinking of a moment of now where something could happen, and using that to paralyze you in this particular moment of now, when I think Tolle always says, you're all in bed and you're lying and all the covers are up to your nose and you're all very, very comfortable, and all of a sudden the ego says, this could happen. Yes, and it takes away your peace. Worry, anxiety, fear. People say, I can't sleep. I'm walking the floor. I'm so anxious. I'm so upset. I don't know what's going to happen. This is going to happen. That going to happen. This one's going to do that. All that is the antithesis of peace, and it's engaging in something which may or never ever happen. It can become silly. What if there's shows on TV, Margaret, where a meteor could hit the Earth anytime in the next billion years. Be afraid. And people are like, oh my God, a meteor.
Oh, I like the
right.
I like the one where the Milky Way galaxy and Andromeda are going to collide,
heading right for each other.
And what did they call it? Milkdromeda
or Andromeda or something. And anytime in the next 4.5 billion years is going to happen. Oh my God.
And you're just like, really?
Your eternal spark won't be around in this form. This form will have long dissolved at that time. And that time doesn't matter. None of the future matters because it has not yet been observed or happened. It's not the moment of now. None of the past matters, at least in the sense of it is not currently happening now.
Well, you mean matters is you would have to define. Word. Yes, you need a better defined word than matters.
What I'm trying to say is that the past happened, as Margaret just said. It's a shadow. It's a memory. It's something which can inform you in the present, and it can help understand what might happen in the future. But all of those things, when they get hooked into the pain body, regret, or into the pain body of anxiety and fear, into the ego of you have to do this or this is going to happen, or that happened 25 years ago and so you can't do this and you can't do that. These things are the thoughts that come in while you're meditating. And if an anxiety or fear arises, you just say, there's a fear there. Wow, well, here's my fear. And you observe it because it's potentially could happen, but you don't engage. Similarly, a thought arises, something reminds you of something that happened to you 25 years ago and it was very painful and very distressing. And yes, you observe, you say, oh, this reminds me of that situation. And I know it happened, but I am at peace with it. I've accepted it. There's nothing I can do about it. And in this moment of now, it's not happening, nor is the anxiety. And so what do you cultivate there? You cultivate the acceptance brings peace. In this moment of now, nothing bad is happening.
Well, you're cultivating space.
And space.
For it to be in. In other words, you don't go immediately into rejection, which is what most people do. No, I don't want to think about that. All right. You're cultivating space in which you can observe it. You don't need to engage in it, but it has a spot. And you could see and say, yeah, that is a possibility. But acknowledging it as a possibility allows you as consciousness to choose where you're going to be, where you're going to concentrate. And it's a marvelous thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is, again, what Margaret just said. In this, the peace that you're gaining in this acceptance is that you have the moment of now, and you have the full awareness, in full awareness, to choose, to observe, and then to act, but not to be captured and to be distracted and to be taken away from into an unconscious, not moment of now state. Your consciousness is still there. The moment of now is still there, but you're unaware. You've allowed yourself to be pulled away from the moment of now and to be thrown into a much tighter, narrower, non-spacious, little itty-bitty memory, or non-spacious, little itty-bitty fear. And yes, the big part of you is still there, but it's being occluded. I think Cotoli says the clouds are over the sun. The sun is still shining, but yet you're covered in cloud. You have to brush away those clouds. You have to accept that they're there, but they're going to break, and the sun will always be there. The sun is always there. Your light of your presence doesn't dwell in shadow, doesn't dwell in the shadows of the future, the unrealized future, or the shadows of the immutable past. Don't dwell there. Don't let your light be wasted there, or spun that way.
Well, it's allowing yourself to embrace fully the ability to use your free will, because that is an amazing gift that you have, the ability to choose anything. And you are here to experience life.
May I stop you for a second?
Sure.
Can you explain, though, that when you see, I think people confuse choice with outcome. It's like, well, I can choose anything. I choose this, and that it doesn't happen, so that makes me unhappy. The choice, explain the choice that we're talking about here.
The choice is in consciousness, where you may choose to abide in this moment in a full, expansive, spacious here and now, where you see what's actually going on. There's no story going or playing in your head. Oh, well, this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and I knew that they were going to make that choice, and I knew. Like, no. You are truly an observer and willing to take in whatever it is that's going on around you. And to be aware of any story that you're telling yourself, because all stories come from an ego, believe it or not. And when you realize that, you have opened your range or your doorway of choices, because you're not listening to the story, you're observing, okay, this is actually what's going on.
And in doing that, what you're choosing is peace. What you're choosing is joy. And it's not situationally dependent. It's not dependent on who's in the room or what they said or what you did. Or it's dependent on your awareness and on your choice. You say, well, this is the is-ness of the moment of now. I just had a car crash. Well, it happened. Am I hurt? No. Is anyone else hurt? Maybe, but I can maybe help them. But the point is that this moment in now, everyone, you could fly off into, this always happens to me, and I hate when this, and blah, 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 blah. No. In this is-ness moment of now, it could be the most joyful thing ever. Accept it. Be at peace with it. It could be the worst thing, the worst news you ever had in your life. Accept it. Be at peace with it. And in that you will find peace and you will find joy. And it's not the joy that people say, well, I'm not happy. Yes, but you have the joy of existence. The joy of now.
You have the joy of life. And being alive is the most precious and amazing thing. And that's what you came here to experience. And we've reached the end of our show.
That's the now we're at.
Mm-hmm. So I'm Margaret.
And I'm Michael.
And thank you for listening.